Hi, this is Tim of the 1916 Company. Welcome and thanks for logging on. If you love this watch, email us, Team Mosso at the1916company.com. It is in the description below. Your purchase and pricing email question line for buying this or any of our watches. Reach out to us, Mosso at the1916company.com for pricing. In 2012, Tudor launched the Pelagos, a modern-oriented diver with a hint of snowflake submariner from the 70s. In 2015, Tudor launched this, the in-house caliber Pelagos with blue dial and ceramic bezel insert. So alongside the black bays, the Pelagos collection always the more modern and more capable diver in terms of raw ratings. It's got the helium escape valve, it's got a more deluxe clasp, it's got a 500-meter diving depth, and significantly, when the blue model arrived, we were into the era of in-house Tudor calibers, so you get all of that in this 42mm titanium diver. 42 is the diameter, 14.3 is the thickness from lug tip to lug tip, 49.7 millimeters as I measure it, with a 22mm spacing between the lugs. We're going to pop open the clasp, and you can see it's a clamshell lock right there. And I'll throw this watch on my 16-centimeter circumference wrist. In grade 2 titanium, it's fairly light on the wrist. You can see because it doesn't have solid end links on the bracelet, it wears quite nicely. So normally I wouldn't recommend a 42 for a 14-centimeter circumference wrist, but because this watch does have those pivoted end links and it is very light, I'm going to make that recommendation. Now, the watch also comes with a blue rubber strap that I believe causes it to wear even a little bit lighter and smaller, so keep that in mind. And the strap does come with a special buckle to use with the strap. Taking a quick look at the buckle and the bracelet as currently fitted, you can see it's a 3-link design, but it's not an oyster. There is a integration of end link to case, matching the slope of the lugs and the curve of the case. The removable links are fixed by screws, so if you've got a jeweler's screwdriver, you will be able to size this at home. There's quite a bit of adjustability built into the clasp. First, you can see that it is a single fold deployant, and that an element of steel is used in the folding componentry of the clasp just to lend extra strength. Now, we have here spring-loaded ceramic pin snaps, so that as you close the clasp and the clamshell lock, you will not be able to wear down the pin snaps. The titanium cannot wear down the pin snaps, so the tolerances will always be snappy. And you can see when closed, you have the image of the Tudor Shield logo. Now, what else do you find inside this clasp, which is considerably more deluxe than T-fit? Well, for one thing, as your wrist naturally expands and contracts, there is an elasticity born of twin coil springs that will allow this watch to automatically adjust given the size of your wrist and the amount of pressure it is under. There are also some points where you can actually anchor the clasp, and then there is a fold-out extension, which is your typical all-or-nothing dive extension. And note now we have ceramic pin snaps even inside of the fold-out mechanism. So there is a huge amount of extensible length here if you want to use all of it over a dive suit or even just a thick winter coat. Now, this is a modern watch, which means the bevels are applied mechanically, but they are applied to recall an era when Tudor and its sister company shared oyster cases, and the bevels would have been laid by hand back then. That sister company has recently reintroduced the bevels on a limited basis, but as part of Tudor's vintage-fueled comeback in recent years, the bevels have been a signature feature on its divers since the start of that era. We have a helium escape valve if you are a saturation diver, that exceptionally rare person who uses super exotic inert gas mixtures and dives for hours, days, or even weeks at a time. When you ascend, the helium in your watch will need to get out. To avoid blowing out the sapphire and the seals, this little valve will open when internal pressure exceeds external by 2 to 3 bar. We have here a 60-click bezel that has a micro knurling that is a pleasure to grip and easy to grip, and would be easy to grip even with wet, sweaty, or gloved hands. The bezel insert is made of ceramic. We're going to do a lume shot now so we can get a look at that. And you can see that the bezel is fully luminescent. So you can see not just the location of the bezel pearl and not just the first 15 minutes, but the entire scale up to 60. You can also see that all 3 hands are lumed, so you do know in the dark and the light limited depths whether your watch is still running, which is a safety issue. Taking a quick look at the dial, it's actually quite nuanced. You can see solid blocks of lume have been applied and that they sit in little serrated hollows within the rejo. Now, this is a vaguely vintage-inspired dial, as the hands draw from the late 60s through mid-70s Tudor Submariner snowflakes, but this is a modern watch, 500 meters water resistant rather than 200 on the vintage-inspired Black Bay. We are looking forward, not black. There is a sort of matte anti-reflective finish to the dial. Watch has two setting modes that allow you to set it more precisely. We have a hacking seconds function, stop seconds, and then we have a quick set for the date. One of the quirks of these in-house caliber Tudors is that you will oftentimes have a differential between what's on the crown and what's on the dial. Sometimes you'll see the rose on the crown and the shield on the dial. I'm glad to see that it matches symmetrically right here. Now, you can't quite see what's inside, but it does give you a little bit of a clue. MT5612. So this is a Tudor exclusive movement made by Tudor's movement supplier, Kinesi. Automatic winding with bidirectional action. It is a 70-hour power reserve, 4 Hz beat rate, hacking seconds, quick set date, COSC certified Swiss chronometer, timed in 5 positions, and it is a 26 joule movement with a full balance bridge and a free sprung balance for shock resistance and precision of adjustment, and it uses an anti-magnetic silicon hairspring for even greater resilience against the elements. This is a watch that has a lot to offer. We'll get a better look at that clasp internal that I talked about earlier. If you want to see more, reach out to Team Mosso at the 1916company.com for purchase and pricing details.